guys, we do stupid things at every stage.
All the time, right.
In our 20s, there's a comedian who's, one of my favorite lines is, most trips to the emergency room for guys begins with the words, "Hey, y'all, watch this." I think the menopause years really, in most ways, can be the best years of our lives.
Yeah.
If we choose to make them the best years.
Yes, I agree.
And make those decisions.
Hi, everybody. Larry and Mike here again for another Manopause podcast. We have a special guest today, Dan Ashley. He's the premier anchorman at the ABC station here in San Francisco. We're in his house interviewing him. And he's a menopause man and a Renaissance man. And Mike's going to tell you why.
Well, I think you're a Renaissance man because we didn't have another title for you. But then I said, well, why don't we call you a menopause man? Because that's what you truly are. You're going through menopause, right?
Sure, yes. Life over 50.
That's it. So you're experiencing that, but you also do it in a different way. You're really living your passion. And you probably have been for many, many years. But now you're doing something, since 2015, Rock the Casa is your nonprofit charity for helping children in need. And you do it here in the Bay Area, right? And you have rock stars that come and play and donate guitars and signatures on guitars that we're going to show you in a minute. But that is amazing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks, Mike and Larry. Great to be on. Great to be with you. Thanks for calling me a menopause man.
You are the man.
I say life over 50. It's getting close to life at 60. But, my Rock the Casa charity is something that I founded in 2015 to help kids in need. Those of us who've been so fortunate have, to me, an obligation to give back. And my job as the anchor at ABC 7 in San Francisco gives me a unique place in the community and a unique platform for which I'm always incredibly grateful. And I've been involved in philanthropy my whole life, and I've been on the boards of several charities that help underserved kids in need. And I thought a few years ago, with a passion as well for music, how can I combine those two things? So I created Rock the Casa to support some of these organizations that I serve as a board member that help kids. So we have these great headliners put on a rock show every year.
That is fantastic. So who have you had?
Well, we started with the first year with Eddie Money because he's a good friend of mine. Sadly, we lost Eddie a year or two ago. And I reached out to Eddie, and he always calls me Danny. Danny, sure, so he with his New Jersey accent. And I asked him to headline, and he came up and did a great job. People loved it. And so we were off and running. And the next year I had REO Speedwagon, and I became friends with those guys, great guys. Then Cheap Trick, another favorite band of mine. I mean, phenomenal, right? And we have it at the Lesher Center in Walnut Creek, which is this theater that we use is 875 seats. So I wanted to give people a chance to see these great bands in a really intimate setting. There's not a bad seat in the house. You're right there. We had Melissa Etheridge the year after that. She was phenomenal lady, an unbelievable singer. And so I try to mix it up too with different kinds of music. Melissa Etheridge, I had right 1 week before we locked down for COVID, Rick Springfield was the headliner.
Wow. Yeah, he's cool.
He was great live, and we had a great time. Last year we did Chuck Lavelle, another dear friend of mine who's a longtime music director and keyboardist for the Rolling Stones, but that was virtual because we couldn't be together.
Yeah.
Well, what are you doing this year for it?
I'm in the process of securing a headliner. I'm going to do another virtual event. I just decided not to do an in-person event.
I played bass in a high school band, and I think you were a drummer, weren't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
We're
there.
We've got it.
You sing, and we're golden.
Yeah. I think a little band just got formed.
There you go.
Don't let him sing. Whatever you do.
Why not?
Bass players don't sing. They hum a few bars, but they don't sing.
No. But I want to get more into the charity thing, but also I want to talk about you really sort of stepping up your musical career, which obviously has been a passion of yours for a while. And now that you're kind of getting into that menopause age, you apparently have decided, hey, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do some stuff. And you have an album that you just released. Let me get it here.
Here it is.
Here it is. See?
Yeah,
Thanks.
it's great.
Yeah, and these are
Just
signed. Everybody gets a signed.
Yes, this is
signed
awesome.
version.
Out there.
Now, did you write all the songs?
There's 11 songs on that album. I wrote 10 of them with my writing partner and friend, Bill Bentley, who performs with me as well, an incredibly talented musician and producer. And one of the songs was written by a friend of mine and a music consultant to me, who wrote this song with his writing partner 20 years ago.
Wow.
It's never been covered. His writing partner, they released a lot of material, and it tells the immigration story of America.
Wow.
It's about that. So the rest of the songs I wrote, and they're all about real things.
Which song is that?
It's called Better Life.
Better Life.
Is
okay.
the one
Yeah.
that is about the immigration
Yeah,
story.
the songs are really good. I mean, the words are deep, and the melodies are good. And by the way, it's available, I think, on iTunes.
Yes, thanks, Larry.
Yeah.
Wherever you buy music.
Yeah, wherever you buy it. Yeah, and Tower Records.
No, Virgin Records.
Virgin
The record bar. Is that
Yeah,
still
something
right?
like that. But it's been fairly recent over the last several years that you've really sort of decided to go deep into this, right?
It is. That's exactly right. You know, I had kind of an amateur band a few years ago, and we played around a lot here in the Bay Area. And then I had the opportunity to work with a music producer who worked as a talent development person for couple of major labels, and he had a kind of an idea for me, a vision for me. So he helped me put together an amazing band of touring pros. Lead guitarist that toured with Mariah Carey, my drummer toured with Santana.
Wow.
Keyboardist toured with Isaac Hayes. You know, these are top flight guys and ladies. We have a phenomenal bass player, and he just had a different idea for me. So I kind of took it to a different place and a new level. And I grew as a singer, and I'm trying to grow all the time, and as a songwriter. And the key for me, guys, was to harness the experiences I've had in my life as a journalist and as a person, and write authentically about things that I see or experienced or have watched happen. And so the songs, really most of them have real meaning. I thought in order to be taken seriously and to try to touch people and reach people with this music, it has to be authentic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I like the what really matters.
What really matters? What really matters to you? We've gotta see it. We've gotta see it through.
That's my favorite.
Is
I
it
listened
really?
to the whole thing.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't know, there's something about that. It just struck me, and I wanted to find out what was your inspiration for that.
You know, I
song.
hear that all the time with that song, and I love that song, but it was one of the first songs I wrote some time ago. So you sort of focus on things you did later. What Really Matters is the title of a weekly commentary that I do on ABC7 News. It's a commentary that provides some perspective on events in the news.
Mm-hmm.
It's not political, but it kind of things to think about and to take away from what's been going on. I used to write a column by the same name in a couple of local papers. So I thought, as the first song I'm going to write as this solo artist, what better thing to write about than the same tying into what I do on television, What Really Matters. And the lyrics in that song say things like, I've seen the camps with my own eyes, referring to going to Auschwitz with Holocaust survivors.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen houses burn, hurricanes churn. But the positive messages, which is absolutely true, I'm always a glass half full person, is that all of these things I've seen, even going to the Columbine massacre that night it happened, good always triumphs over evil. People always rise above and help one another. And it's always the takeaway for me, even in horrible situations, is usually positive in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So that's what the song is.
So the thing is, everything in its time is what people say, right?
Right.
So probably a lot of the insights and the depth of the words that you've been writing would not have been possible 25, 30 years ago because you didn't have the life experience that you get as you get into Manopause, and you can look back at all the things you've gone through and suffered through and triumphed over. That makes good fodder for songwriting or any kind of writing.
It absolutely does. We're all in those menopause years. And imagine if you tried to do menopause in your 30s.
Right.
Or even
it
doing
makes no
this
sense.
podcast and
Right.
the great things you guys are doing on the Manopause website. age brings perspective.
Yeah.
And youth brings exuberance and a can-do attitude and all that wonderful energy. But we're different people in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and into our 60s. You're absolutely right, Larry. It's a great point. I could not really have written those lyrics years ago, or if I did, they wouldn't have been with the same authenticity.
Right, exactly.
You know, it would be sort of parroting.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have written what I do in my job. The way I approach my work now is very different than it was in my 20s, 30s, and 40s. Right?
Yeah.
So speaking of menopause, you're going through it, right?
Right.
Is it real? Is there, I mean, women go through menopause and that's totally different. What are men going through? What are you experiencing now that you're 49 for the fifth time?
Yeah, I'm celebrating, I guess, the 9th anniversary of my 49th birthday. That's such a great question because certainly women have a much different experience and I know that can be very challenging for a lot of women. But men go through changes too. We go through biological changes, but you also go through psychological and emotional changes as we age. And I think some of the things that I've noticed, that I've experienced, only in the last few years, 2 or 3 or 4 years. You know, once I hitting 50, I didn't notice any big change. But then you start to look at your life a little differently. Maybe that's why I'm also, focused so much on the charity things that I do, focused on music. Your perspective changes. I lost my mother 4 years ago. We're at the age where, and we were very close. We're at the age where these kinds of life transitions happen, which change your outlook. You begin to think a little bit more about your mortality. I just finished doing a whole bunch of tests and the annual checkup, which my last annual checkup was 4 years ago or 3.5 years ago. Now you're suddenly realizing, hey, we're playing for keeps here. You got to stay on top of this stuff. Those changes happen as we enter this stage in life.
And that's what we have found is that, menopause, everybody knows, men and women, is real. And it manifests itself differently. Like some women go crazy, other women get depressed or whatever. But it's acknowledged by everybody that happens.
Right.
With men, it's only now sort of becoming an issue when a 60-year-old man who's been married for 30 years leaves his wife for a 25-year-old. It's like, God, what a jerk.
Right.
But now it's sort of like, well, wait a minute. There's something going on that's making him do that, right? There's some hormonal stuff that's happening that makes men do a variety of stupid things that they don't realize. And it's as real a medical problem as menopause is. And that's what we're trying to point out is men, unlike women who tend to talk to each other honestly, men are like, nah, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm fine, and that has to change. Men have to feel comfortable talking to each other, saying, hey, I've got ED, or my marriage is falling apart, or I don't know what to do in my business. We've never been able to open up like that. And I think that's what
we have. We do this all the time, and then we're sitting around going,
we're crying all the time.
I bring extra tissue for him just because I have
just cry.
You've learned over time.
Drooling in tears.
Right, and I found him the ED medication, so his life's much better now,
and,
right?
As a physician, you can
exactly.
No, you guys, it's exactly right because we, for a long time, and first of all, let me backtrack and say, guys, we do stupid things at every stage.
All the time, right.
In our 20s, there's a comedian who's one of my favorite lines is, most trips to the emergency room for guys begins with the words, hey, y'all, watch this. You never get a woman to do the dumb things that they try. But we are supposed to be tough, right? We're supposed to be bulletproof. We're supposed to be impervious to those kinds of emotions. And it can be challenging for a lot of men to talk about it. I'm not shy. I love talking and connecting with people and having these great conversations with men. One of the things, this sounds maybe silly, but one of the best things I think that have happened for men in the last bunch of years is we hug each other.
Right.
Yeah.
It used to be, it's a nice, affectionate way to greet someone. And I think that has dropped a lot of barriers. And you still see older guys not quite comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Younger kids and younger people do all the time. I think that's part of us opening up a little bit, being more truthful with each other and not feeling embarrassed to admit something's wrong or I'm feeling a certain way.
You know, age is really just a number. I can still roar like a lion, dance like a star, and run like a frightened schoolgirl. That's right. I'm a menopause man, over 50, sure. Slower and grayer, perhaps. Hairier in places, well, sadly, yes. But I still have a lot of living to do. So join me at Manopause.com. It's a site for men over 50, chock full of stuff like sex, health, money, travel, entertainment, sports, and did I mention sex? Manopause.com. Come on. Ooh, feel that breeze.
This is a change that's happening. It's
Big time.
really starting to happen. And I was on a Zoom cast for International Men's Day yesterday.
Oh.
And a lot of men, there were probably 20 or 30 men on there, but there were maybe 10 or 20 women as well. And they're all in these little squares and they're all talking, and the women are starting to cry and get, tears in their eyes because men are opening up, and the men were starting to cry. And it was just an amazing thing to see that, maybe 10 years ago you wouldn't see it, right? But now, today, you do see it.
So
And
much more healthy.
it's much more healthy. And, men go through depression when they start to age. It's just a thing that they go through. We had a doctor on our podcast who was talking about this, and he specializes in men over 50. And he said, the older you get, the more depressed you get. And there's a lot of suicide going on with men that you don't really hear too much about. But it happens. And so I think it's super healthy that we get to talk to each other and open up with each other. We're going to live longer. We're going to be happier. And maybe because we're opening up, our wives will be happier with us, and we'll be happier with our wives because we can actually talk about stuff.
Not go overboard.
Well, but I just think it's a great
Steady,
thing.
right,
It's
yeah.
great.
No, but I think that level of communication and understanding with our male friends, but also our spouses, our wives, is critical.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've been reading recently is one of the key factors in people who make it to 100, apparently, I'm speaking like I'm a medical expert, but I'm not, is how they handle adversity and stress, and whether they're able to, and we all know people, I like to think I'm one of them, but we all know people that ride the waves pretty easily. We all go through challenges, but then people who go into the depths of depression or can't get out.
Right.
That kind of stress kills and shortens life and makes your life less enjoyable.
Right.
And one of the things that I wish for everyone is to be able to face those kinds of adversities with a bit of a sense of optimism. And part of that is by talking with one another.
Right.
You're not alone.
Having a
That
support.
feeling- Yes, that support, not being isolated. And that brings on feelings of depression, anxiety, fear. That adds to our stress level and shortens our lives.
Well, the other thing, and it couples with what you're doing and what we're doing, and that is, as you approach retirement and you begin to wonder, what was the point of my life, or what am I going to do now? The whole charitable aspect that you've gotten into and we've gotten into makes such a huge difference in how not only you feel in general, but how you feel about yourself and the world. The fact that it doesn't matter at what level you're giving back,
That's true.
or giving back, right? And so all the things that you've organized with the Rock the Casa and stuff, is it the biggest charity in the world? No, but each person that you help, each kid that you help, will always remember that, and so will you. And that's something we try to convince people on Manopause as well, is do that. It doesn't matter how big. It does, don't say to yourself, oh, well, I'm not going to make a difference. Yeah, one thing will make a difference.
And you get as much out of it
Correct.
as you give, to be honest. And I'll tell you guys a quick story. When my kids were little, my two sons, for years, we would we would take them to a homeless shelter or a kitchen on Thanksgiving, and we'd work for several hours before coming home and having our meal.
Right.
And once they became early teenagers, they would grouse about it sometimes. And I remember driving over to the church that was feeding people. It wasn't our church, but just one that did set up a kitchen. They were not really in the mood to do it. And I said, guys, listen, we're fortunate in our lives. We get to travel and we get to go to nice places. And not everybody lives like this. It's important to recognize that people really struggle.
Right.
And I said, here's what I want you to do. When we get there, I want you to treat these people as if they're guests in the finest hotels, the kind of place you might stay in. And Larry, Mike, I had tears, literally tears in my eyes as I watched them run around at, I think, 11 and 13, run around. Sir, can I bring you more water? Ma'am, can I help you? Would you like some more bread?
Yeah.
And they served those people.
Yeah, that gets you.
And I was standing watching, crying, tearing up, watching that. I thought it was so beautiful. And fast forward years later, my youngest son would go pick up, one year he picked up a homeless guy here in town that he'd seen around a couple times. He bought him a sandwich or two before and just saw him. He picked him up, took him in his car to Target, I don't remember which store, bought him some food and bought him a bunch of clothes with his own money. And again, talk about a proud papa and teary. My oldest son, I found out, had for several years, 2 or 3 years at least, he was working little odd jobs as a high school kid. He would take one paycheck around the holidays at Christmas and go to Toys R Us and spend the whole paycheck. He didn't tell me this, I found out later. The whole paycheck, buy toys, donate them.
Yep.
And I thought, isn't that a beautiful thing?
And that
you sowed the seeds.
Right.
You planted the seed.
Well, you're kind of say so. I'd like to think so, but
Yeah.
they, you know, it comes down to the character that they have in their hearts. And I know the opportunities. Look, we've all been very fortunate. We have nice careers, good jobs, we're comfortable, and it can be easy to forget that. You know, some people struggle often through no fault of their own. They had just get a series of bad breaks, maybe some bad decisions and all that. But boy, the joy of helping them.
Yep.
And these kids that we help, I host a golf tournament, and I've hosted it for Friends at Camp Concord. I'm on the board of that for 26 years. And we send underserved kids to summer camp. And last year, before COVID, we sent, in the time that I've hosted this golf tournament, a 10,000th kid.
Wow.
Up to summer camp at Lake Tahoe. These are kids that would not get this experience, you know, city
That's
kids.
a great course up there.
Oh, it's fantastic up there.
Mm-hmm.
And these are kids that wouldn't get this opportunity. They meet counselors from around the world.
Yeah.
Maybe it's their first time away from mom and dad. They learn skills, archery, canoeing, water skiing, and they get to experience the great outdoors, no cell phones. They make friendships for life, some of them.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're proud to be able to do that because every kid ought to have a chance to do that at least once.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I was going to ask about the Manopause, back to the Manopause thing for a second, which gets your juices going and things that you can do. When you were young, you probably, I don't know about this, but I never traveled with my friends, with my guy friends, right? It was always family, 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 family. We discovered hanging out together, and we started doing guys trips at 50 years old.
Oh, that's great.
And there's something so rewarding about that. And I just want to ask you, do you
Especially
ever
the
do
spooning.
that? Yeah.
The spooning is like totally rewarding.
Those cold nights.
Yeah.
No, I understand, Larry.
But you know, that it changed my outlook on life really by hanging out with my friends at an older age, where because you do that, you get to experience different things.
It's a great point. My wife Angela and I love to travel and love to be together. And so we look forward to doing a lot more of that in those retirement years, in the years ahead, the decade ahead, or whenever that happens. But the chance to go with your guy friends, and I've done it a number of times, golf trip to Scotland with just four guys.
Right.
We went to Ireland, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, 4 of us as well. Or another dear buddy of mine who lives in Phoenix. We haven't done it lately because he has little kids, but we'll get back to taking those weekend 3-day golf trips.
Mm-hmm.
Guys interact differently with one another.
Oh yeah.
It's just us.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes in a bad way, but usually in a good way.
Yeah,
we just communicate in a different way that we can bond, in a unique way. And it's incredibly important to do that because that's when you deepen your friendships. Correct. That's when you break down barriers about talking about things.
Mm-hmm.
And, our fathers didn't talk as openly about things
not at all.
as we do now. Yeah. Not at all. And our grandfathers, nothing. I mean,
It was a sign of weakness.
Right.
it was a
Right,
sign of
right,
weakness,
right.
and just they weren't comfortable doing
But
it.
the interesting, we have a funny story.
I knew when I brought this up, you would say
We went
something.
to the Stein Eriksen resort, and it was a guy's trip in Deer Valley. And the three of us went skiing, and our plan was a guy's plan. It's like, okay, guys, we'll get up when we get up. Well, how long do you want to ski? A couple hours? Perfect. And then what? Okay, and then we'll go to the brunch. Okay, and then we'll go have massages. Perfect. And then we'll go grab something to eat. Perfect. So we get there, and that's exactly what happens. And before we go out, it's like, what do you feel like eating? I don't care. How about Italian? Perfect. Right? That's how the whole trip went.
Yeah.
And we were so excited by it that we told our wives, we have got to go as couples, right? Big mistake. So we go there, we get one big suite for all of us, right?
With no plan.
No plan, other than, we thought we'd relive the halcyon days of our trip, right?
Right.
So we get there and it's like, okay, so what are we going to do about skiing? One person's like, I'm getting on as soon as the thing's open, I'm there.
First try.
Another one's like, I'm a little sore today. And then somebody else is like, I don't know, maybe an hour or two I'll ski. Okay, well, we can arrange that. And then when it came to massages, I don't really want a massage. Okay. The key was at dinner time. And it was the same conversation. So what do you guys feel like eating? I don't care. All the wives, I don't care. Okay, well, we went to this great Italian place. One wife, I don't want Italian. And that's how the rest of the trip went.
Nobody could agree. On
And nobody could agree on anything. And it was such a contrast between guys just saying, whatever, we're just palling around.
Right.
And going out with the wives and stuff. It's a different experience. And that's why I do think it's important for guys to do that. I love traveling with my wife and stuff.
Sure,
Don't get me
right,
wrong.
right.
But it's a different thing. And like you say, it does give you the opportunity to open up, because you've had a few drinks and you're relaxed and you can say,
And
this
you're
has
just
been going
away
on.
from the real world,
Right.
and it's just your buddies. My buddy I mentioned that lives in Phoenix, we went on a golf trip one time through Northern California, and Truckee and that whole area in the Sierras. And we went one night, we pulled in town, we had no plan, we knew what courses we wanted to play, and we had a couple of tee times set up, but we didn't know where we were staying at night, we were just staying in cheap motels. We pull into this town, this tiny town, I can't even remember the name of it, and find this motel, and as we arrive, there's a sign that said, racing tonight. And I went, oh, perfect, we're going to the racing. So we show up at this strip with guys racing, grandstands and everything else, low end,
Right.
but fun to watch. So we're just eating hot dogs and food. And we started laughing because they were doing contests and throwing t-shirts in the crowd. And I looked over and I said, if they do a contest, point to the two people who don't look like they belong. We look like two square FBI agents sitting in the stands. But we had the time of our lives because it was just the two of us.
And your wives would never have gone for that.
Well, you wouldn't feel comfortable taking
Right.
it was horrible
Right.
food,
Yeah.
but we didn't care.
Right.
It was, mediocre entertainment,
Yeah.
but we didn't care. We thought it was fantastic,
Yeah.
and it was, I think that's so important for us as men to do.
Yeah.
And I think it improves your outlook. It improves your mental health. It's plain fun. And I think one of the other keys to happiness for guys, I suspect you guys might be like this too. I know I am with my brothers. I'm really close with my three siblings, one sister and two brothers. We talk every day. And we played endlessly. One of the things that I wish kids got to do now is be outside.
Right.
They're never outside. Remember when we were kids, you had to jump out of the way of cars in the neighborhood.
Right.
Well, you never see kids on the street anymore playing. No kid does that. They're all inside. One of the things that I think is so important for grown men to do, especially as you get in your 50s, how many times have you seen grown men that seem awfully dour? And you can't even imagine them as boys. Did you ever play and laugh?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened to that boy inside?
Yeah, exactly.
That you guys could talk me into playing kick the can with you now.
Right.
Or I could throw frisbees. We could go play hide and seek.
Dodgeball.
Seriously,
Oh,
at
yeah.
this age, I think it's important for men to stay in touch with their boyhood.
Yep.
Right.
That sense of adventure, that Huckleberry Finn idea,
Yeah.
that Tom Sawyer sense of play. and imagination.
Well, we're totally
drones
now. We're
now.
playing with
Oh
drones.
yeah. You got a drone? What kind? Okay, I just got it. Okay, so isn't this great?
Yeah.
To give you an idea, my oldest son gave me for Christmas last year a phenomenal gift. It's over there. This incredibly cool, very realistic lightsaber.
Yeah.
So I can play Star Wars. And I do. I think that
Honey, look at this.
Being silly is important. And I think too many men seem to grow out of that.
Yeah.
And don't feel comfortable doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
And I feel badly for those.
Well, and that's why our motto is live life, live young.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean you're not old. It just means, you may be chronologically old, but you don't have to walk around with your pants up to here, and just sit around watching TV. Get out there and do the same stuff you did when you were younger. Just be careful.
Yeah,
you got to be careful.
Be careful. And not just physically do the same things you do. Mentally go to those places.
Right.
And have that attitude of youthfulness and optimism. It's easier said than done, but I know so many men that don't really giggle or laugh or don't crack a smile. You can't really tell a joke to. Or they're not playful.
Right.
And surely they must have been when they were kids.
Right.
You
think.
You think.
Maybe
All the men I know that I'm close with, we tend to have that attitude, and I think they're all happier people as a result of that.
A very important poem by me. Is your thing getting limp? Do you feel like a blimp? Are you getting those stares because you have nose and ear hairs? Do you want to be bold, but you think you're too old? Well, come to Manopause.com, because it's really, wait for it, the bomb. For men over 50, it's cool and it's nifty. For humor and for sex, for dealing with the ex, for helping and giving so others keep living. For new friends and travel, before God drops the gavel. Manopause.com is the new place to be. Check it out, and you'll like what you see. Manopause.com. That really is profound.
So what would you tell somebody? I mean, because that's another thing, is that we're blessed, being at a certain success and socioeconomic level. But I mean, there are people who have worked regular kind of jobs, throughout their lives, and they're thinking, well, yeah, sure, those guys can go here and can go there, but I can't. I might as well just, stay at home. And I think it's not so much about what you're doing; it's the fact that you're doing. And like we talked about,
and it's your attitude, how you approach what you're doing.
Right. I mean, if you love soccer, join a neighborhood soccer league of guys, or go watch soccer, or do something that just kind of brings that energy back. I mean, I think that's what we're trying to push. It doesn't matter if you're worth $100 million or $100,000. You can still be young, and do
young
stuff.
at heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And you know what? Your socioeconomic status doesn't have to control your happiness. It's an empty bag if you're chasing that.
Yes.
If you're chasing that,
right.
I know people who have been so focused on that, and then we get to that point,
We're
still
just
not
talking
they're
about
still
that.
not happy. It's
Right.
a moving target all the time.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, one of the other keys for me, and I think men can really think about, is we've all been fortunate, but I promise you, I like doing well, and I like my career. I've had a wonderful career in broadcasting, and I have traveled the country and the world and done some remarkable things, and it's been a great privilege. But if they fire me tomorrow, and I work in TV, and they might.
Right, you never know.
You never know. And I ended up working at the restaurant down the street. I might not be I used to work at a restaurant, bus tables, manage, supervise, short order, cook, the whole job for years. I might not be content to stay at the restaurant because I would aspire to do other things, but I promise you I'd be, if not the best, one of the best employees they had, with one of the best attitudes.
Right.
Because you got to be a happy person no matter what.
Yeah.
And you'll see sometimes people working in certain environments and they're not happy, and they're not. And I think, if you don't think you can be, if you can't be the bank teller with a good attitude, why do you think you can be the bank president?
Right.
Right.
That's right. I mean, you've had a storied career. I mean, 27 years with ABC, anchoring the news. You've interviewed presidents and celebrities and rock stars.
And us.
And you no, well, you just blew my line. But you haven't interviewed us.
You're interviewing me.
That's right. So
well, actually, you did interview us on the radio.
That's true.
That's right.
That's a good point.
Yes, you forgot already?
Manopause.
Yeah.
So, but do you fear not being relevant? Do you personally, Dan, Ashley, fear, what if they don't like me anymore? What if people are tired of me?
That's such a good question. That's a really great question. I think that haunts a lot of men as we get older.
Mm-hmm.
What have I left behind? I still want to be in the game.
Right.
These younger guys are nipping at my heels. All of that stuff. I probably felt more like that in my 40s. My 50s, not so much. I love my career. I'm committed to my career, but I don't have anything to prove to myself. I just want to continue to thrive and do well. I don't fear that, actually. And I know a lot of guys do. I don't fear the idea that, well, you'll walk away one day and then guess what? You're not the person you used to be. Well, you are.
Right.
I just do something else. I think that part of that is an attitude that you have to adopt or try to reconcile within yourself. So I actually don't, but I understand it. I suppose, all I would want is for somebody to say, no, guy did a good job. He's a nice guy, did a good job.
Yep.
That's fine. That's about all I need. And as long as people feel I treated them well, that's more important to me than anything else. And just have that sense. But I don't fear it, but I understand a lot of people.
A lot of men do.
Oh, sure.
It's prevalent in medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a bunch of old doctors that hang around, especially surgeons, longer than they should. And it's
because they can't give it up.
Well, they can't get up because they're not John Smith. They're Dr. John Smith.
Right.
And when the doctor goes away, they don't know who they are.
Right.
And so, for me, I want to leave the profession when everybody's like, what? You're retiring? Oh my God. Instead of, oh good, he's retiring. You know what I mean?
Right.
Leave them wanting more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why we have other things in our lives that we're going to be pursuing. But a lot of people, whether you're a doctor or no matter what you do, if you don't have those outside interests that, again, go back to the whole idea of being young and being playful and all this, when you get home from work, you shouldn't just be thinking about work tomorrow.
Right.
You should be doing stuff. Go out and play ball or do something.
All work and no play makes
Exactly.
Johnny a dull
Exactly.
boy. And not only a dull boy, less effective at your job.
Correct.
That's
right.
A happy, well-adjusted, balanced person is much more effective in every walk of life.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think that I would encourage all of us men to do, and I've always been one of these guys that likes and needs hobbies, activities, interests, whether it's golf, and I, for years, very passionate golfer. I still play a little bit, and I mean to get back to it, but that was something I really focused on. Now I spend a lot of time doing music, of course, philanthropy.
Right.
There's the telescope there. I enjoy learning about the cosmos. I think it's important that whether you collect stamps or you play tennis or you focus on working out, have something that occupies your mind and ignites a passion.
Right.
Put model trains together, whatever it is.
Like
You
Rod
still
Stewart.
have
Rod Stewart
stamp
does
collection,
that.
right?
Yeah, I licked them all though.
Yeah.
Damn it.
You get sick from that.
Yeah, yeah. It's not very.
But I
it's
think
not
that's
very
really
much fun.
important, for guys to have interests outside their work, especially as we get older into our 50s, because, hey, in our 20s, 30s, 40s, you're building your career. That's what you're focused on. That's job one.
Right.
And one of the sayings I love is, and it's the key to be successful in your business or even your personal life, in any aspect of your life. The main thing, good Southern saying, by the way, the main thing.
Wait, say it with a Southern accent.
The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing.
There you go.
I love that.
Don't take your eye off the ball.
Yeah.
And there's another line that I like that you'll appreciate, that because our focus in life changes as we age as men. And you get more perspective in your 50s and your 60s that you didn't really have. You had plenty of ambition and drive in your 20s and 30s, which, you may not have as much in your 50s and 60s. So everything it has a place in life. But the line I like is, you have to understand this as a man, in your, and as this applies to women too, but in your 20s, you're convinced that they're talking about you at work, and you're worried. I mean, this is critical. My career, I'm trying to get it going.
Right,
You're convinced. In your 30s, you know they're talking about you, but you know, I have a family now. I've got some other things to think about. But boy, I got to make sure what they're talking about me favorably because my career is building. In your 40s, you know they're talking about you, but you don't care quite as much. You know what they're saying. In your 50s, you couldn't care less what they're saying about you, and in your 60s, you realize they were never talking about you.
Right. Isn't that interesting? I always walk around the office saying, we're the guys the other guys you're talking about when they're talking about the other guys. That's our competitor, right?
Right, that's exactly
They're talking about us.
That's so true.
Yeah. But you have some other great sayings that are motivating. Some of the things that you say to the kids.
You know, when I do a lot of speaking to adults and
Right.
to kids, mostly to adults, but often to kids. And, you know, things resonate with me that I try never to forget because they can be guideposts and they can be motivating. One of the ones, I just heard one the other day that I really liked about achievement and about working harder and going above and beyond. And that is, there's no traffic on the extra mile.
Love that.
You know,
It's
they're
great.
so true. And I always tell young people, particularly, you want to do well, do 10% more than everyone else. You want to be a rock star, do 50% more because no one does anything. And you want to stand out. And
Love that.
you know, I believe in that. I always will do whatever it takes to get it done. And I think that's important. Give me the job that's the hardest one that no one wants. I'll be glad to do it.
So, next 10 years, there's going to be a lot of changes in your life, right? Where do you want to be at the end of that 10 years?
Alive.
Okay.
It'll be your 19th birthday after 49.
My 19th anniversary of my 49th birthday.
Yeah.
Now, you know, and what's interesting is you think more about that now than we did. You know, nobody said in your 20s, where do you want to be when you're 35?
Right.
You know, I don't know. That's 100 years from now.
Exactly.
You know, now, guys, at our age, all of us in Manopause, we've got another good line. We have plenty of time, but none to waste.
That's right. There
So
go.
you want to make the most of the opportunities that you have, the ambitions that you have, whatever it is that you want to pursue in life. So for me, you know, I intend to continue to work as a journalist, and which I love, and I work for an amazing television station, some truly dedicated and talented people. So I want to continue to thrive in that environment. I want to continue to have fun with music. I want to really accelerate the philanthropic things that I do. I want to travel a bit more, and I want to prepare for the next stage in life when my wife and I are really free. She has a law firm. When she's no longer doing that, to travel, to enjoy life, play tennis, exercise, do all the things that you want to do, and have a rich life after work, after my career, never looking back.
Yeah, that's right.
Only looking forward, knowing I left it all on the floor, and now it's time to have fun. And the last thing that I would say that I just went through, and men at our age need to deal with, health issues. Watch your weight. Keep type 2 diabetes is rampant. Pay attention to your risks for that. But also, I just had a heart scan. I thought, you know what? My father had a heart attack about a dozen years ago. Bad when he survived it. He's alive today at 88 and doing well. He's a physician. He was a doctor and epidemiologist. Doing great. You'd think he's 65 in terms of the way he moves. But I got checked back then, and I was fine. And I got checked recently to make sure, do I have any calcium buildup?
Right.
Fortunately, I don't. I'm in great shape. Well, now I said this sense of responsibility for the next 10 years. Hey, this is fortunate. Don't tip the other direction. Don't blow it. Because the key to a happy retirement is being alive for your retirement. Yep. So I would just encourage guys it's easy for us to blow off our health, especially if nothing seems to be wrong. Pay attention to that, because now we're starting to play for keeps, and you want to move into your 60s and 70s in as healthy a place as you possibly can.
Well,
Good advice.
I think the key thing, what you were saying is, we still have time, but we can't waste any. We have none to waste. And I think that's really important, is that you can't, keep saying, well, we'll get to that. I'll start this, next year or the year
I'm
after.
gonna lose that
It's like,
10 pounds next year.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start
do
running.
it now. Do it now. If you have a passion and you want to be a forest ranger, a volunteer, go do it.
Right.
Do stuff now because nobody's promised additional time.
And challenge yourself.
Right.
Challenge
Yeah.
yourself. I think that's
Right.
a great point, Mike.
Mhm.
I take on something that's difficult. Whatever that is. Learn
Like starting
French.
a website, maybe.
Or
learn French. Learn to build
or
French
fly
with
the
your hands.
drone.
Or fly the drone.
The drone sat there for 2 weeks, and I walked into my office and I said, "Today is the day. Where are my kids? They're not around to help me line it up." So I challenged myself to set it up and fly it. And an hour later, I said to my wife, "Stand out on the balcony, watch what's coming." And I flew all the way around the house and right there on the balcony, eye to eye with her, and she was freaking out. She thought it was the greatest thing. And
Good for you.
It was great.
Yeah,
It's
because
just
you know
like,
what? A
it took me
15-year-old
an
kid
hour.
would do that in 10 seconds.
Right.
It's harder for us to figure
Correct.
out. Good
But
for
I
you.
figured it out,
Yeah.
and I have fun with it, and I can't wait to go spy on Larry.
He's weird that way.
I have the gate code to your house. So don't worry about
I
that.
think the Manopause years really, in most ways, can be the best years of our lives.
Yeah.
If we choose
Yes.
to make them the best years.
Yes,
of our
I
lives
agree.
And make those
I agree.
decisions. They really can.
Yeah, because you don't give a shit about anything, and right, you don't care what anybody says about you or anything like that because you are what you are. You've got this life experience, and you kind of know who you are, hopefully, and what you want out of life, and so you just go for it. But the key is taking the step to go for it.
Absolutely.
People are still timid or afraid or I can't or you got to just go for it. What do you got to lose?
Nothing. And
Right.
time. Life is short and getting shorter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember when I was, I don't know, in my 30s, you would see someone on a movie star, someone who's in their 70s or 80s, and someone would invariably ask them, if you could go back, would you go back? Or what are the best years of life? Oh, right now, these are the best years. It's an old person.
Right,
saying
right.
and I didn't believe that.
Right.
Right.
You wouldn't go back. I didn't believe it. How could you possibly want to? How could this be the best time of your life?
Because I'm here.
I believe it.
Right.
Yeah.
If you ask me when's the happiest, best time of my life, right now.
Yep.
And I'm not, no BS. It is.
Yeah.
And I think having that sense that, hey, tomorrow I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to see something that I didn't see before. I'm going to meet somebody. Never know, you might meet your next best friend.
Right.
If you're open to those experiences in the future,
Mm-hmm.
you have a reason to be optimistic, not look back and be nostalgic.
Mm-hmm.
Look forward and be optimistic that
Absolutely.
more happiness continues to come.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for us, I mean, it's been we've met so many cool people just by reaching out. One of my idols when I was growing up was Mark Farner with Grand Funk Railroad, and I just reached out to his publicist. We did a podcast with him, so we know the guy now, and he invited us to come out and visit him in Michigan. And it's like, what did that take? All it took was us asking.
Right. All you do is say no.
Yeah, let's just do it,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Same thing with you. I mean, it was sort of incidental that we made contact, but here we are talking to you, and we consider you a friend now, and you
We
got
begged you. I mean, we did beg your publicist, and they finally said, "All right."
Once you got through all my layers
Yeah.
of people.
right.
Yeah.
You got to open yourself up to meeting new people,
Absolutely.
and that makes your life even more interesting because it's not just the same old group. It's not just hanging around your house. It's getting out there, learning about other people, and maybe picking up some habits or some fun tips from them, and maybe going on trips and stuff.
Right.
There's a lot of cool stuff when you get out there and meet people.
You're right. You have to be curious.
Right.
A young person's curious heart
Right.
and want to learn.
Right.
One thing I'll share that might be interesting, and I talk about this when I give talks. Face your fears. Face things that are challenging for you. Years ago, I grew up around music and sang in the choir when I was a little kid. And when my voice changed, I never really sang again. And I didn't sing in the choir anymore. And over the years, I sang less and less and less and less. And, I've been in public my entire adult life. My heart rate doesn't go up. You could tell me to go out and there's 1 million people standing in the square and I could go talk to them. be fine. But 10, 11, 12 years ago, I wouldn't sing happy birthday to you guys. Just quietly.
Really?
I developed a bit of a phobia. So if I'm at a sporting event where they're singing the national anthem, I mouth the words. We're singing happy birthday. In church, I just mouth the words.
You should probably do that.
A lot of us
Instead of
should.
singing.
But I really did have, and I realized one day, God, I need to get over that. I'm a grown man. I shouldn't be really that self-conscious, especially, doing what I do.
Since nobody's paying you to listen to you.
Right. So I started taking lessons with no intention or ambition to sing in public, just to get over that fear.
Right.
Well, one thing led to another.
Boom.
I really found, I can do this. I enjoy it. And I got over that fear. The first time I sang in public, there were 4,000. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The first time was a little band launch party a dozen years ago that we had here. And there were like 100 people. And I was a bit nervous. A couple songs in, I suddenly got this rush of insecurity. It never happens to me. I'm in public all the time.
Right.
Almost fainted. You couldn't tell. You wouldn't know. But I thought, gosh, you're making a fool of yourself. Stop. That never happened. What a weird feeling.
Wow.
A week, 10 days later, we were performing in front of 4,000 people. The same thing happened a few songs in. But not as bad. But this literally lightheaded, whoa, this is really a mistake. And after that, never happened again. Now I can't wait to go sing because I feel like, well, it's just like going to speak to them. It's what I do. But fast forward a few years from being phobic about singing to singing the national anthem in front of 20,000 people on a Saturday night at a Warriors game.
Wow.
And talk about overcoming a fear.
Yeah.
That was a big moment. I was nervous, but interestingly enough, I wasn't nervous that I'm going to make a mistake. I'll be on YouTube and they'll make fun of me. What I didn't want to do is kind of let the side down. You look at the color guard and Steph Curry and this whole production. I don't want to be the weak link because I don't want to.
Don't pull a Carl Lewis.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to. And it wasn't about me, interestingly. Might have been years ago, but in your 50s, it's less about me looking foolish. I can take looking foolish, whatever. They don't take you out back and shoot you. But it was about, hey, I want to hold up my side here and not be the weak link for them. I don't want to mess it up for them.
Right.
So how'd you do?
Well, I did pretty well. I had a horrible cold that day I woke up with, unfortunately, which is not the greatest thing when you're going to sing the national anthem a cappella. But I got through it, did a pretty good job. And what I realized, face your fears, life is an adventure. And had I not been willing to do that, I would have missed the experience of singing the national anthem in front of a arena full of
This
people.
has been unbelievable. Thank you for your time. Thanks for hosting. You got to give us a tour of the guitars. We'll be looking at that soon, and it's just been great. So thank you so much for allowing us to come into your home.
Mike, Larry, I'm thrilled to be a part of Manopause and be on the podcast. And thanks for coming.
Thanks, Dan. We'll do this again.
Please.
Thanks.